So when you look at religious diversity and you think of a young person, you think about the different possibilities and the way that a young person can understand their faith. And, it can be as a bomb, as a barrier, as a bubble, and obviously all of us are working towards making it a bridge. And I think this is something that we have to communicate in ways that make sense when we're dealing with our communities of youth and our congregations of young people. So I would say that we as individuals, as people of faith, have a duty to make people move from the middle. And so, we think about the fact that everybody from, Queen Rania to President Obama to President Clinton has been supportive of the work of the Interfaith Youth Corps, but interfaith work in particular. You think of all of the grassroots things that are happening in the name of interfaith cooperation, but where's the middle? And I think oftentimes people who are not religious leaders don't feel that they have a voice in this. And I think what our responsibility is, and this is even to, non-religious people, secular people, I think this is really important, is to think about what our role is, all of us as individuals, in changing this, and making sure that we are all on the side of religious pluralism, and not that we are creating a space or a supportive culture for religious extremism to flourish. And you see the quote by Martin Luther King Jr. here, which is very germane, which is, "We must learn to live together as sisters and brothers, or perish alone as fools." And so it makes the choice very easy, but we all have to realize our own accountability in making that choice. And personally, it's part of why I do this full time, because I think it's that important. I think there is no more important issue today than the challenge of religious diversity becoming religious pluralism. Our faith traditions, all of them, have great examples of the transformative power of religious communities to advance some of the greatest civil rights struggles that we've seen. So we see that in the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was inspired by Gandhi, and that he marched with the Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. We see during the Indian independence movement that Gandhi, who was a Hindu, said that he learned from the teachings of Jesus, and that his partner in this movement was Badshah Khan, who was a Muslim leader. And so when we think about and when we look at our religions as ones that, of whose core is mercy and compassion and justice, it offers us a basis to move forward in advancing against the biggest issues and causes that we want to see solved. And it's not about religion, but it's about what we can do for the common good. And I think that's an important, again, thing to remember. I wanted to include a verse from the Quran that speaks to the imperative and the mandate for Muslims to how Muslims should treat non-Muslims. And it says, "Unto every one of you we have appointed a different law and way of life. And if God had so willed, he could surely have made you all but one single community. But he willed it otherwise in order to test you by means of what he has vouchsafed unto you. Vie with one another in doing good works. Unto God you all must return, and then he will make you truly understand all that on which you were wont to differ." So it's not our judgment or duty to decide that, how and why people are different and how and why we should act with them, but rather, I think for me the key line in this is vie with one another in good work. So race one another to do good work in this world. And then if you look at the other side of this, Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya is a prominent sheikh in Mauritania, and he says, "If I asked people to die for the sake of God, I would have them lining up at my house. But when I ask people to live for the sake of God, I can't find anyone." And I think we know of the stories of mercy and compassion in our faith, particularly for me in the Islamic faith tradition. We're not living them, we're not communicating them well enough to young people. We're not making them relevant to young people's lives. And so that, I would say, is a challenge before us. Just a quick snapshot of how young our religious leaders have been. And so we have Martin Luther King Jr., who was 24 when he led the bus boycott in Alabama. Mahatma Gandhi was 19 when he began his work. And then you have Osama bin Laden, who was 22, whose major inspiration was his youth leader at his gym when he was 15, which is when he began to be indoctrinated. And so powerful religious leaders on both sides of the faith line start very young. And I think it's important to give young people a voice as early as possible. So just a little snapshot of what we do at the Interfaith Youth Corps, the skills that we think are important for young people to have. One is the vision, and that's to see the world not as the clash of civilizations, but a world of religious pluralism versus religious extremism. So to get the us and the them right, and that it's not about the difference between Muslims and Christians, or Jews and Hindus, but rather those of us who want to prosper and live in peace and work on our greatest challenges. And those who don't. And so Habitat for Humanity build, or there's millions and actually there's thousands of projects that happen every year in the U.S. and I'm certain around the world along interfaith service. How long? Okay. So let me go to my second to last slide. I just want to quickly go through a few Interfaith Youth Corps leaders. Mustafa, who's on the left, organizes on his college campus to get medical shipments donated and then sends them abroad to regions of need. Rachel and Nadeem are a Muslim and a Jew who go to Wesleyan University, who annually do a fast-a-thon where they raise money and ask people to observe fast for a day, and they take all that money and donate it to the local food shelter. And then Anand and Ansaf are Muslim and Hindu at Stanford, who effectively organized a rally of 1,000 people against a group that was called Westboro Baptist Church in the United States that was picketing the Hillel in Stanford. So those are just a few examples. I also want to recognize the students here from Rondine. You guys should raise your hands, who I had the pleasure of visiting along with Mara and Joshua and the ambassador on Sunday, and who are living this every day in the hillside of Tuscany, in a beautiful place where they have dedicated really their time to building interfaith cooperation. So I just offered three quick takeaways. One is that we must involve young people on their own terms and give them agency. So we should not create programs for young people and then ask them to come. We should actually ask them to create their own programs. And we should make a space open and available for everybody to engage in interfaith dialogue. The second thing is that we have to challenge the discourse that exists in the media. And we heard all day dozens of examples of, again, positive stories about interreligious cooperation. We have to be telling those stories to people other than ourselves. And it's really important that we make this work and make our stories relevant to the happenings of the day. And it's not hard because there's stories of religious conflict every day in the papers. And then the last thing is, as people of faith, we have to reach out to secular communities. And the last thing is that I would just urge you all to leave here today and make a concrete commitment and think about what you will do, and write the ambassador, write me, my contact information is up there, and let us know how we can help. But make a commitment today that we spent the day here to do this because we want it to just be a beginning. So I thank you for your time.